I gripped the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles had gone white, standing out against the cracked, worn leather like bone. Outside, the snowstorm raged on, merciless and unrelenting. Thick, blinding sheets of white slammed against the windshield, reducing the world to a blur of motion and ice. I'd been on the road for 8 hours, 8 long, grueling hours, navigating treacherous roads in near-zero visibility. All for her. For Camille. It was her birthday weekend. She'd gone ahead with her friends to a cabin tucked away in the woods, promising she just needed some time to relax. I imagined the look on her face when I showed up, that little intake of breath she always made when surprised, the way her eyes lit up like a child's. I saw her in my mind's eye leaping up, wrapping her arms around me, whispering, "You're crazy," into my neck with that laugh of hers. Riding in the passenger seat was a box. Her favorite cake, rich chocolate layer with raspberry filling. A combination she once told me tasted like childhood and comfort and indulgence all in one. The box had suffered a bit from the rough ride. The corners dented, but the cake was intact. It was good enough. More than good enough. This was me trying, stepping out of my usual practicality. I'd never been the grand romantic gesture type. She liked to tease me about that. But this was me putting the effort, proving that love didn't always look like flowers and poetry. Sometimes it looked like 8 hours through a snowstorm. The cabin finally appeared through the white haze, nestled among pine trees, smoke curling lazily from the chimney. It looked warm and inviting, a little slice of peace in the storm. I parked the truck, grabbed the cake, and forced my way through knee-deep snow. My jeans were soaked through, my boots heavy and caked in slush. But none of it mattered. I was almost there. I could already hear laughter spilling from inside. Her laugh, unmistakable, light and musical, and cutting through the hush like a beacon. I didn't knock. Why would I? This was a surprise, a moment I'd built up in my mind for hours. I pushed the door open, the warmth rushing to meet my frozen skin. The cake box, damp from snowflakes, was still clutched in my hands as I stepped across the threshold. Then I stopped. Camille sat on the couch, a glass of wine in one hand, her head thrown back in laughter. Around her were her friends, Blair, Lena, a couple of others I vaguely recognized. They lounged like royalty, drinks in hand, voices light and casual. And then I heard her. "God, I hope he crashes," Camille said, her tone sharp but breezy, like she was commenting on traffic or the weather. The room broke into laughter, not nervous, not unsure, deep, full-throated amusement. Blair raised her glass like she was toasting death itself and said, "At least then you get a few months of silence." The others howled with laughter again, the sound bouncing off the wooden walls, loud and jarring. Each note hit me like a slap. I couldn't move. My feet were planted to the hardwood, snow dripping from my coat, forming little puddles at my feet. The cake box had never felt heavier. I could have turned around, slipped out before anyone noticed, pretended I never heard any of it. But I didn't. I couldn't. I just stood there, Camille's voice echoing in my head over and over again, "I hope he crashes." Blair was the first to see me. Her smirk faded for a brief second, and she mouthed, "Oh." Camille turned slowly. She didn't gasp, didn't run to me, didn't call my name. Her face didn't brighten like I'd imagined. There was a flicker, something between surprise and annoyance, before she smoothed it over with a practiced smile. "You're here," she said softly, like I disrupted something. I said nothing. What was there to say? I walked across the room, past their wide eyes and frozen stares, and placed the cake box gently on the kitchen counter. The sound it made when it landed was dull and final. I didn't look at anyone. I didn't need to. I could feel their silence, thick and uncomfortable, pressing in from all sides. Then I left. I closed the door behind me, stepped back into the storm. The wind cut through my wet clothes like knives. I didn't care. I trudged back through the snow, numb all over. My breath came out in ragged clouds, and something dark and raw boiled up in my chest. Fury, grief, disbelief. Maybe all of it at once. I climbed into the truck, shut the door, and stared through the windshield. The cabin lights glowed warm and golden in the distance, like nothing had happened, like the last 10 minutes hadn't just shattered something vital inside me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, letting the snow pile up around me. All that hope I carried with me, all that love, all crushed beneath the weight of her words, of their laughter, of that stupid cake sitting untouched on the counter. I started the engine. The roar cut into the storm and pulled away without looking back. The storm swallowed the cabin behind me, and I let it. By the time I spoke to Daniela, my therapist, I was on autopilot. I told her everything. How I'd made the drive, what I'd overheard, the way Camille looked at me like I was the one intruding. Daniela listened carefully, her pen moving quickly over her notepad. "You want a divorce?" she asked, her tone calm, clinical. I paused. If you'd asked me yesterday, I'd have said no. I looked down at my hands. Today? I don't know. I need to understand what I'm dealing with. She nodded, like she'd heard this story a dozen times before. "I'll refer you to someone who can help, a forensic accountant. He's good. Name's Leo." Leo's office was cluttered. Papers stacked high. Shelves bowing under the weight of binders. A coffee mug dangerously perched atop a wobbling pile. He looked younger than I expected, with quick eyes and an easy smile. He greeted me with a firm handshake. "Let's see what we're working with," he said, gesturing for me to sit. I handed over everything. Account access, login details, the full picture. I'd already changed the passwords the night before, but I hadn't looked into the financials. I couldn't. Not then. Leo dove in. His fingers flew across the keyboard, his eyes scanning transaction histories, his mouth murmuring little phrases to himself as he worked. I sat back, sipping bitter coffee and watching him work like he was defusing a bomb. It didn't take long. "Interesting," he muttered. He leaned back, eyes still on the screen. "She's been busy." Camille had been quietly funneling money into a separate savings account for over a year. At first it was subtle. $150 here, $100 there. Easy to miss. But after I got my spring bonus, $500, then $1,000, after we refinanced the house. Bit by bit, she'd been siphoning money, building something behind my back. Leo tapped a few keys and turned the screen toward me. "Roughly $20,000, he said. "Give or take. Every transaction links back to her. She didn't even try to hide it." Daniela leaned forward, examining the trail of transfers. "This changes things," she said. "In a divorce, this is leverage. Separate property she tried to conceal. That's not just betrayal, that's legal exposure." I stared at the numbers, feeling sick. While I was breaking myself at work, she was stashing away cash. While I was buying cakes and making birthday plans, she was preparing for a life without me. I didn't say much, just nodded. I wasn't ready to decide anything yet. But I knew one thing for sure. I needed to know everything. No more illusions. No more hope. "Keep digging," I told Leo. He smiled almost eagerly. "Gladly."